you're paying more than ever for products that last less than ever. That kettle you bought 18 months ago is already dead. The jacket didn't survive one winter. The shoes cracked before you could resole them. This isn't bad luck. It's the system working exactly as designed. In the 1970s, manufacturing made up 30% of Britain's GDP. Today, it is under 10%. The UK has dropped to 12th in global manufacturing rankings. Washing machines that once lasted 15 years now average 7 years. Most brands that still stamp a Union Jack on their packaging moved production to Asia years ago. The flag is decoration. It is not a guarantee. But 5 brands refuse to play the game. They still manufacture in the UK. They still build things designed to last decades, not months. And they prove that quality British manufacturing isn't dead. It's just rare. Let's start with the one you can literally hand down to your grandchildren. Number 1. Barbour. It's easy to dismiss as overpriced countryside nostalgia. Royal warrants, wax jackets, rolling green fields on the marketing. But here's what makes Barbour different from every other heritage brand trading on its past. They are the only major UK outerwear manufacturer that still makes jackets and still repairs them in the same building. Founded in 1894 in South Shields, right at the mouth of the River Tyne, Barbour originally made oilskins for port workers and sailors. 130 years later, they are still there. 5 production lines. Each jacket is hand-assembled by seamstresses working in sequence. But the real story is not the factory floor, it is the room behind it. Barbour runs a dedicated repair service, staffed by its most experienced workers. They do not patch your jacket. They replace entire panels, cutting new fabric down to the seam line or for structural integrity. They stockpile discontinued cloth, linings, buttons, and hardware going back decades, specifically so they can repair jackets from the 1970s and the 1980s. Lining patterns were not even standardized before that. Customers send their jackets in with handwritten notes explaining the history. One woman's dachshund ate half her Beedale. She sent it in with a photo of the dog and an apology note. Most brands do not plan for their product to exist in 40 years. Barbour plans for it. But a jacket is one thing. The next brand proves even kitchen appliances can be built for life. Number 2. Dualit. Imagine buying a toaster once. Not once every few years when the element burns out or the lever jams. Once. The average Briton will go through 7 to 10 toasters in a lifetime. Dualit owners buy one. Founded in 1945, Dualit is still family-owned and independent. Their classic toasters have been hand-built in West Sussex since 1952. Each one carries the assembler's name on the base plate. You know exactly who made your toaster. Try getting that from a £10 Argos special. The design is deliberately mechanical. A manual timer, a hand-operated ejector lever. No circuit boards, no digital displays. Nothing that requires a software update to make toast. The patented ProHeat elements have an armor-plated coating that won a Millennium Award for engineering. And every single part, the elements, the timer, the switches, is individually replaceable. The toaster isn't glued together. It's designed to come apart and go back together again. Think about that. A 10-pound toaster lasts 3 years. Replace it 10 times and you've spent £100 over 30 years. A Dualit Classic costs around £200, and owners report using the same one for 20, sometimes 30 years. The cheap option isn't cheaper. It's just disposable. Dualit was originally built for commercial catering, designed to survive the daily abuse of a restaurant kitchen. The domestic market came later, when people saw what lasting actually looked like. A toaster sits on your counter. The next brand moves with you through one of the most congested cities on Earth. Number 3. Brompton. Picture this. Rush hour in London. Someone steps off a train, unfolds a bike in under 20 seconds, rides through traffic, folds it back up, and carries it into the office. No lock needed. No theft risk. That bike has been doing this daily for 15 years. In 1975, Andrew Ritchie sketched the first prototype in his flat overlooking the Brompton Oratory. That is where the name comes from. At the time, he was working as a gardener. Today, every Brompton steel frame is hand-brazed in their factory in Greenford, London. Titanium frames are built at a dedicated facility in Sheffield. Each bike contains over 1,200 individual parts. For comparison, a standard single-speed bicycle has about 300. Here is the detail that tells you everything. Each welder at Brompton has a recognizable style. They can identify one another's work just by looking at the joints. That is a level of craftsmanship most factories abandoned decades ago. Production grew from 6,000 bikes a year in 2002 to approximately 50,000. That makes Brompton the largest volume bicycle manufacturer in Britain. Over 80,000 are on London's roads right now, with distribution across 47 countries. A Brompton was chosen to represent London in the closing ceremony of the 2008 Beijing Olympics. It won the Prince Philip Designer's Prize in 2009. And the core design has barely changed since the original 1979 patent. In an industry addicted to annual model refreshes, Brompton treats that as a feature. The next brand on this list comes with an asterisk, because only 1% of what they sell actually qualifies. Number 4. Dr. Martens. You've probably heard that Dr. Martens aren't what they used to be. That's not quite true. But what is true is worse and better than you think. In 2003, Dr. Martens closed its UK factories and moved production to China and Thailand. 5 factories shut. Over 1,000 workers lost their jobs. The company went from a major British employer to a skeleton operation of 20 people in its home country. Quality complaints followed. In 2019, The Guardian reported that readers' boots were failing far faster than older pairs. The company responded that only 0.5% of its footwear was defective and that nothing had changed in materials or production. The customers disagreed. The leather, the stitching, and the lifespan told a different story. But here's where it gets interesting. In 2004, 1 year after the closures, production quietly resumed at the original Cobbs Lane factory in Wollaston, Northamptonshire. This is the Made in England line. It uses Quilon and Horween leather, substantially sturdier than the standard range. It uses a felt midsole that molds to your foot over time, instead of foam that deteriorates. It uses hand-stitched Goodyear welt construction. with a stronger bond between upper and sole. You can spot them by the yellow heel loop that reads Made in England. Asian-made pairs have a plain black loop. The price reflects the difference. £220 to £280 for Made in England versus £130 to £160 for Asian production. The Wollaston factory produces roughly 50 pairs a day. Meanwhile, Solivere, the original manufacturer that Dr. Martens dropped when it moved overseas, kept making virtually identical boots under its own name at the same English factory. Many long-time Doc Martens loyalists have switched permanently. When the brand calls its Asian-made 1460 the original, that is marketing. The original was made in Wollaston, and while every other manufacturer in its industry fled to Asia, this one stayed in the same building it has operated from since George III was on the throne. Number 5. John Smedley. The UK knitwear industry is essentially gone. Brand after brand moved production to the Far East through the 1990s and the 2000s, chasing lower labor costs and faster turnaround. An entire manufacturing tradition was wiped out in a generation. One factory never left. John Smedley has been making knitwear at Lee Mills in Derbyshire since 1784. That is not a typo. The mill was co-founded by Peter Nightingale, a relation of Florence Nightingale, during the infancy of the Industrial Revolution. 240 years later, the 8th generation of the Smedley family is still running it. Ian McLean, the current managing director, is a direct descendant of the founder. The company holds 2 royal warrants. Each garment takes 7 weeks to produce, uses 1.5 kilometers of yarn, and contains approximately 1.2 million individual stitches, assembled by 50 skilled craftspeople. Before the offshoring exodus, John Smedley produced knitwear for Prada, Burberry, Paul Smith, and Vivienne Westwood. Those brands left for cheaper production. John Smedley stayed and invested £3.5 million in new machinery between 2023 and 2024. They reopened their factory to third-party manufacturing for the first time in 40 years, actively trying to bring knitwear production back to British soil. 300 employees. Exports to 47 countries worldwide. Every other knitwear brand in Britain left. John Smedley bought new machines. So what do these 5 brands have in common? Everyone is family-owned or independently run. None are controlled by multinational conglomerates chasing quarterly earnings. They all prioritize repair over replacement, and they all still manufacture in Britain. That these 5 brands are remarkable says more about how far everyone else has fallen than it does about them. Buy less. Buy better. Check where it is actually made, not where the brand is from. Which brand surprised you most? Drop a comment. And if you want more real information about the products you are buying, subscribe. Thanks for watching.